Hey guys, sorry, I'm obviously not here. I'm out with two sick kids today. So just be thankful your sock babies can't get sick and you don't have to deal with kids that have stomach bugs. All right, so the sub should have given you your organizers. Okay, so this is 6.1, the lifespan and physical development of children. So I'm going to go through this with you guys, fill it in as we go. I have stuff that's in this video that I'm going to talk about that isn't on the slides that you need to put in your organizer. So make sure you listen so you can get everything. Okay. All right. So when we're looking at prenatal development, okay, these are the stages that we go through. So from conception through 2 weeks of age, your baby is considered a zygote, right? This is when all the cells are dividing. Okay. So conception to 2 weeks. From 2 weeks through about 8 weeks is the embryo stage. This is when all the vital organs are forming. Okay. From 9 weeks to birth, your baby is then considered a fetus. Okay. So this is when overall development happens. Okay. You do need to know for the EP test the purpose of the placenta, right? That's a nice little bubble that your baby sits in. Okay. No, wait back. It connects the fetus to the mother. It's going to bring in oxygen and nutrients. That's how the baby breathes in its nice little water environment for 9 months. So then whatever the mother eats, then that's how the baby gets food. And then it's also going to carry away the waste because baby still has to go to the bathroom while it's a fetus. So somehow all that waste has to get carried out. Okay, during development, there is what's called, my son's playing Prodigy back here in the background. There's what's called a critical period. And so this is the time during the development from zygote to fetus when influences have a major effect on the development of the fetus. Okay, so it's during the critical period when babies are really susceptible to teratogens, which are substances that can damage the embryo or the fetus. And so these are things like alcohol, nicotine, drugs, and I'll talk some more about that in just a second. But just to kind of show you how development works, right? So like I said, at about 2 weeks or 14 days, the zygote will turn into an embryo. Okay, so you do start to get development. I did want to show you all this because at 6 weeks, you get like the neural tube. Okay, so you start to have like all the nerves and everything that's going to start forming the main parts of the body. So it's really cool. Then, like I said, at 9 weeks, it goes from an embryo to a fetus. Okay, really great pictures. There were lots of other pictures on here, but like I said, I've had two kids, and those pictures still kind of freak me out. The little webbed hands and stuff. So, I did not go through and show you all of those. Okay, but I do want you to know. So like I said, at 9 weeks, it becomes a fetus. You get brain activity. That went away. But it says here how like the child like swims and moves gracefully inside the amniotic sac, which is what's filled with fluid. Yeah, they swim gracefully until they start like bumping into other things. And then like elbows start jabbing you in the side. My kid keeps hitting my mouse. So they always show development based on fruit. I don't know why someone decided to use fruit, but that's what they use. So the thing with the fruits, like I said, it's really hard sometimes to visualize fruit. So there are all other kinds of different guides to kind of compare. So like the 4-week one, instead of a poppy seed, you have like a speck of glitter, right? So like if y'all know how small glitter is. So 8 weeks, a raspberry, that's about the size of an icon on your phone, like one of your little app icons. Week 11, ping pong balls. Like it's like stuff that helps you visualize the size of your baby a little bit better. At 19 weeks, so mango about the size of a pint of ice cream. Okay, so they have normal everyday things that can help you visualize how big your baby is as it develops. Okay, so I was mentioning the critical period and teratogens. Like I said, teratogens are anything that can cause damage to the embryo or the fetus. One of the most common is fetal alcohol syndrome. And this happens when women consume large amounts of alcohol during pregnancy. And I mean, like, not just you drink like a glass of wine every day, which is what some cultures do, but I mean, you are like excessively drinking every day while you're pregnant. Okay, so with fetal alcohol syndrome, you get like facial deformities, heart defects, cognitive impairments. Like it actually damages the child as it's developing. You kind of see the same thing with women who do drugs, like heavy drugs, while they're pregnant. The babies can be born addicted to drugs because all that stuff is going to go in through the placenta to the baby. So then the baby is getting the effects of the drug that the mother uses. Okay, so to make sure you are actually paying attention to the video, next to where it says prenatal development on your chart, okay, right next to where it says prenatal development, I want you to write the word kangaroo. That way I know that you're listening to this. Don't tell anybody. All right, so as babies develop, right, they have different reflexes. And so you do need to know these. I do have a video that I'm going to play in here and talk through to show y'all how these reflexes actually work, okay? So rooting is a baby's reflex that, like, when you brush their cheek with something, they're going to, like, turn their mouth and, like, move their mouth to try to get to whatever is. Like, that's just a reflex that helps them learn how to eat, okay? Same thing with sucking. Babies will suck on something if you place it in their mouth. Like, that's how they know to use a bottle or a pacifier. But, like, sometimes, like, if you ever put your finger at a baby's mouth, it'll start, like, sucking on your finger. Swallowing goes without saying, right? It's how they can, actually swallow and eat their food. Grasping is anything, like, when you put it in their hand, right? They'll make a fist and close their hand around anything that's there. Stepping is, like, when you hold a baby up and then it, like, tries to, like, actually move its legs and stuff. There's two more that I'm going to show y'all here in a little bit. One's the Moro reflex, and then one's the Babinski reflex. But these are only reflexes in babies, right? So all of the other, like, all of these end up going extinct as you age, and then it's replaced with, like, your actual reflexes that you have as an adult. So nobody has these reflexes anymore. These are strictly for babies. Okay, let's see if I can get this video to work. Okay, so for the grasping reflex, this is what it looks like, right? You put something in the baby's hand, right, and it's going to close its teeny tiny little fingers around whatever it is, okay? And so usually by the age of 6 months, that goes away, because babies are, like, already using their hands to grab things. Okay, the next one, right, and they also do it with their toes too, which is kind of cool. The next one is the Moro reflex. Y'all, this one's funny. Like, when babies are sleeping and they get startled and they freak out. It is so funny. And it's okay to laugh at babies when you have children many, many, many years from now. Like, if you choose to have kids in, like, 10 to 15 years, right? And they're just laying there and you're watching them sleep because they're so cute and peaceful. And then they spaz out and they're like, it's really funny. Like, the first couple times you watch it, it's really funny. It's a 100% normal reflex in babies. Sometimes they'll cry, but other times they're just asleep and they just spaz out like that. And like I said, it's kind of like one of the cutest things. Okay. So that's their little startled reflex. Oh, I got the first one. The next one is rooting, right? So as you can see, like, you brush the side of their mouth. They turn their heads because they're looking for something to eat. And so they do check anytime you take your child in for an appointment. they do check to make sure that, like, developmentally your child's doing what it's supposed to. Okay, so when something touches a baby's mouth, right, then they start sucking. It's a normal, that one's pretty straightforward. Okay, the Babinski reflex, which is the next one, is like when you stroke a baby's foot, like its feet and toes like go outward. Right, so his little toes are curled up, and then like you just stroke the bottom of their foot and their little fingers go out. Okay, crawling. This one, the crawling reflex, is like when you put your hand against a baby's foot and apply a little bit of pressure, the baby will like try to push, and they have like this innate desire to try to start crawling. Okay, and so that's natural. Here's the stepping reflex, right? They try to move their legs like they're walking, like when you hold them supported. Okay, and then this one's really cool, which is the tonic neck reflex. So basically, whichever way a baby's head is turned, right, the way that they're facing, that arm and leg. Hold on. That arm and leg are stretched out, and then the other ones are like flexed in, which that's just as they're learning to grow and they're developing. That's how this plays out. Okay. Mommy. Okay. All right. So temperament. We're going to talk more about this next week. But temperament is your characteristic pattern of emotional reactions and how you can emotionally self-regulate. So there's 4 different temperaments we're going to go over next week, but just to give you an idea, you can start to see signs of temperament in babies. And temperament can maybe sometimes predict what you're going to be like later in life, but not always necessarily. Like you could be a super fussy baby, but be like a really chill, well-rounded, well-adjusted adult. So that doesn't always make or break anything. All right, as far as perception goes, here's what I would write down. Do not copy all of this on your organizer because, one, you're not going to have room and you don't need to write it all down. So if you're just playing through this, reading the slides, I will be able to tell when you turn it in because you're not writing it down as I'm about to tell you. All right, so for vision, here's exactly what I want you to write down. 8 to 10 inches, good vision by 6 months. I literally just want you to put down 8 to 10 inches, good vision by 6 months. Okay, so babies are pretty much blind. Like, they can't recognize faces. They can't recognize detail. Like, it'll just be like a blur to them. Okay, so eventually, right, like 10 inches in front of your face is not that far. Anything past that, they can't see. Okay, but 6 months, it starts to get better, and then it's pretty much fully developed by a year. Okay, for depth perception, I do want you to write down visual cliff research. Okay, and then I also want you to add has to be learned. Okay, depth perception has to be learned. When I showed y'all that visual cliff experiment, right, those babies had no concept of depth perception. Okay, that's something that eventually, like, you learn as you get older. Okay, so for your other senses, here's what I want you to write down, or you won't have room. I want you to write down hearing, taste, smell, fully functional. That's all I want you to write down under other senses. Hearing, taste, smell, fully functional. Okay. Your ears are fully functional prior to birth. Okay. Babies can hear sounds while they're in the womb. So that's one of the things that research has found out, and why babies are typically really receptive and easily calmed by the voice of their mother, because they've heard you for 9 months. And so they get used to the voice, so they can fully hear things. Now, does that mean like you should play classical music to your kid so that they're smart? Not necessarily, but you can, right? So you can put stuff up to your stomach while you're pregnant, and then the babies can hear the sound. Fun fact, you can also like shine a flashlight and sometimes like get the kid to punch, because like the light bothers them. It's not going to hurt them. They're not going to go blind or anything like that, but you can shine a flashlight. So fun stuff. Okay. And then smell and taste, 100% fully functional. All right. As far as cognitive development goes, okay. Again, do not write all this down. Here's what you need to put down. Okay. Babies become habituated to objects over time. Okay, so they become habituated to objects over time.
What does habituated mean?
What does habituated mean, Meryl? I'm glad you asked, because I was just about to explain that to them. Okay, habituated means like it becomes a habit, right? Like you get used to something.
Oh, so Mom, so this is an object I became used to it.
Yes. Okay, so like if they have a toy and it's their favorite toy, right? They're used to it over time. So the way that you can measure cognitive development in newborns is when you give them a new object and they show more interest in the new object than in the old one. Okay. So the first part you should have had written down. Okay. Babies become habituated to objects over time. Then the second thing you need to put down is begin paying attention to new objects. Okay, so babies become habituated to objects over time. Begin paying attention to new objects. All right, and I do want you to know that, like, at 7 months, because like this is really cool, right? Your brain is going to have about 28 billion neurons.
What are neurons?
Neurons are things in your head, in your brain, that send signals from your brain to your other parts of your body, and they go all throughout your body.
Are you also going to explain that?
No, they should hopefully know what a neuron is by now.
What is it? Just told you.
Well, but I'm telling you what it is. They should know.
And you also told them.
Right. So the greatest
You also told them.
spurt of okay, fine. The greatest spurt of neurons is going to be in your frontal lobe, right? So that you can make decisions. You don't have to write this down. I just want you to know that. So these are like neural connections in your body down there at the bottom. All right. So under physical development, I just need you to put down 10 inches of growth, 15 pounds in the first year. Okay. So 10 inches of growth, 15 pounds. Y'all, kids can literally grow overnight. Like you can put them down and then they wake up the next morning and they are literally an inch longer. So sometimes how can you tell? If you put them in like the little onesies that are kind of big on them, or if they like fit just right and then the next morning they're small, like they literally grow overnight. Okay. So like I said, 10 inches, 15 pounds is typical in the first year. Okay. And then when babies are born, just know that like they are all different weights, sizes, all that other kind of stuff. Like my oldest one, the one who's home sick right now, throwing up, when he was born, he was like 7 pounds, 8 ounces. So then my little question asker over here, when he was born, they're like, oh, he's going to be like the same size. Nope. A 9-pound baby.
Wait, Mommy, how many pounds was Buster when he was born?
7 pounds, 8 ounces.
How many was I?
9. With your big old head.
So I was heavy was the Buster when I was born?
Yes.
Jeez.
Yep. And ginormous head. So thankfully their growth does slow during the second year, but you still get growth spurts and growing pains. And we'll talk about that more as we get into like child and adolescent development. All right. So for motor development, there are a few different things I want you to write down in this box. Okay. So here's the thing with motor development and like the social and cognitive development of your kids. Y'all, parenting books are fantastic to give you an idea. You can go Google stuff. You can go Google WebMD, like when should my baby crawl, and look at all this stuff. But there are people who, if their baby is not crawling by 8 months and 1 day, they freak out and they think there's something wrong with their baby. Kids tend to develop like at their own paces. That's why there's a range for when they achieve milestones. Some babies achieve milestones faster than others. Some take a little bit longer. And that doesn't necessarily mean that anything is wrong with the kid. There's just lots of different variations for developmental norms. All right. So the first thing that I want you guys to write down is sitting. Okay. Babies can sit at 6 months. That means they sit unsupported. Because normally, like, you can set them up and then they're going to fall back. So you have to have a pillow behind them so they don't hit their head on something or they don't fall forward, like, off of something. You can't just leave them sitting on the couch and think they'll be fine. Like, they'll fall off. So don't do that. But they can sit on the ground unsupported at 6 months. Okay. Crawling is anywhere between 8 to 9 months. It's at that point really when they start like rolling over, because then they can like roll to get to where they like want to go. You got to be careful because then you got to like start baby proofing stuff and putting like the things on the sockets and then like locking your cabinet doors and all that kind of stuff. Keeping like then your house is a mess because then they can reach things. Like once they can stand, then it's all over. But crawling is 8 to 9 months. So is standing. Okay. So like with them standing, that's like standing by themselves. And prior to that, they can like grab hold of things and like they learn to pull themselves up. Again, this is when you really have to baby proof things and like watch corners and edges of stuff. We had a coffee table that with both boys.
What's the couple now?
We had to baby proof. So like after the first time, actually we had to do it with both of them, that they pulled themselves up and then they like fell back down and like hit the edge of the table. Then we like got like a big old piece of foam and like put a sheet over it so that way they had something soft. So if they hit their face, you know, they like wouldn't split their eye open or their forehead open or something like that. All right.
Did you say split your eye open or your forehead?
Yes.
Oh my god.
All right. So you should have. Oh, I'm sorry. You need to put that they roll over at 5.5 months. I forgot that. So add that there. They roll over at 5.5 months. They sit unsupported at 6. They are crawling and standing from 8 to 9 months. At 12 months, they start to walk. Okay. And that just means that like they start and then they'll fall down and so they don't make it very far. And then by 15 months, they're 100% walking independently. Okay. So those are the ones you need to have on there. Roll over at 5.5 months, sit at 6, crawl and stand at 8 to 9 months, start to walk at 12, and then they're walking by 15 months. Okay. So the last box you have on your organizer, which is not on the PowerPoint. So if you are listening at this point, I will give you the answers for the box. Okay. Is nature versus nurture. Okay. And this has been this debate in psychology forever. Like when you develop and like your when we talked about learning and intelligence and all that, is it nature, which is genetic? So you need to put nature, genetic. Okay, and you also need to put down that there are biological factors that influence development and personality. Okay, biological factors that influence development and personality. So which for a lot of stuff it is like genetic, right? So like how tall you are, hair color, eye color, that kind of stuff. I'm not talking that. But I am talking about like temperament, your personality, intelligence, things like that. Are they genetically inherited or does it have to do with nature? Okay, which is the environment. So you need to write down nature is the environment and also write down that there are external factors, parenting and learning, that influence development and personality. All right, so it's any external factors like home environment, parenting styles, which we'll talk about next week, and learning that influence development and personality. Okay, so that's it for this box. So again, to make sure you're paying attention, in the bottom left corner of the nature versus nurture box, I need you to draw a star. Okay. So please make sure you turn this in before you leave today. So after this, take some time, study for your vocab quiz. Take about 10 minutes, study for your vocab quiz. And then after you're done with that, you need to go get into the Sock Baby project. And if you look on that Google Doc, like down like a page or two, there are questions for you to answer. Okay, as you're working through this project, I just covered information that will help you answer the first 3. So go through and answer those first 3 questions, and I am going to check to make sure.
Pikachu.
I am. See, this is what your sock baby turns into.
Pikachu. Pika.
Okay, I do need you to answer those 3 questions, and I am going to check to make sure that you finish it. There is another video in Schoology that says homework. Yes, you have homework. Okay, your homework is going to be to fill out the next organizer, which is 6.2a. Same thing. I went through the PowerPoints there, the lectures there. All you got to do is listen and copy it down and have it ready on Tuesday. Guys, have a great weekend. Take care of your babies. Oh, yeah. Those of y'all that keep throwing your babies or let other people steal your baby and throw it around, I'm taking points off. Have a great weekend.